Are you looking for a greatsword build that doesn't require you to grind the PvP track for Serenity? Do you want a build focused on getting the most out of Venom's unique perk? Then let me introduce you to the Venom Greatsword build. The Venom Greatsword build is a DPS build focused on dealing high damage through greatsword heavy attacks, whilst providing key debuffs and damage over time through use of the spear. This results in a DPS build that puts out some impressive damage. So what makes the Venom Greatsword build? We start with Venom. Venom is the new spear artifact. Its unique perk, Poisoned Tip, causes heavy melee attacks with either weapon to inflict poison, dealing 20% weapon damage for 5 seconds. This means when we switch to our greatsword and heavy attack, we will be able to utilize this perk. This can affect multiple enemies at once and inflict some big damage, with the dot damage reaching over 1k per second. Venom comes with Trenchant Crits and Trenchant Strikes. For the final perk, we have added Bleeding Sweep. This causes the Coupe de Grace upgrade to Sweep to apply 28% bleed for 8 seconds. As the Coupe de Grace upgrade counts as a heavy attack, this will also inflict 20% poison from the Poisoned Tipped passive on Venom. All this combined means one sweep packs a massive punch. For our greatsword, we are using a greatsword with the perks Trenchant Strikes, Keenly Empowered, and Keen. Trenchant Strikes is a key perk causing our heavy attacks to deal 22% more damage. To further upgrade this build, Keen can be replaced with an attunement perk for a further increase to damage. For our armour, we are in a light equip load. For our chest, we are using Featherweight. Featherweight's unique perk, Weightless, allows us to use some heavy armour pieces in our other armour slots while still maintaining a light equip load. This provides us with more overall armour. This extra armour helps to mitigate the negative side effects of being in an onslaught stance from the greatsword, which increases the damage we take by 15%. Featherweight comes with Refreshing and Physical Aversion. For the final perk, we've added Health. For our helm, we are using Enchanted Ward, Elemental Aversion, and Fortify and Perforate. For the gloves, we're using Enchanted Ward, Refreshing, and Health. For the legs, we're using Enchanted Ward, Refreshing, and Thrust Conditioning. And for our boots, we are using Enchanted Ward, Elemental Aversion, and Health. For our amulet, we are using Health and an Element Protection perk that matches the element of the mutation we are doing. For the ring, we are using Hearty, Slash Damage, and Leeching. For the earring, we are using Refreshing Toast, Nimble, and Healing Heart. For our attributes, we are using 350 Strength, 205 Dex, and 50 Con. As both weapons scale with both Strength and Dex, we want to use a combination of them both. Overall, the attribute threshold bonuses from Strength provide more benefits than those from Dex in this build. Therefore, we put more points into Strength, with the remainder going into Dex. We keep 50 in Con to provide us with some health, and the bonus of plus 10% to physical armour. For our skills, on the spear, we are using Perforate, Skewer, and Sweep. Perforate provides damage, rend, weaken, and thanks to the perk on our armour, Fortify. Skewer provides damage, empower, and bleed. Sweep provides knockdown and massive damage. As mentioned earlier, the Coupe de Grace upgrade on Sweep is classed as a heavy attack. This means that not only does the attack often do over 10k damage, it also applies both bleed from the Bleeding Sweep perk, and Poison from the Poisoned Tip perk. For our skills on the Greatsword, we are using Relentless Rush, Roaring Rupture, and Calamity Counter. Relentless Rush provides damage, empower, and puts us into the Onslaught stance. Roaring Rupture provides damage, cleanse, weaken, uninterruptible, and pulls enemies. One of the main combos will be to use Relentless Rush to initiate combat and enter Onslaught stance, and then use Roaring Rupture to group enemies together. Thanks to the passive Aggressive Shift, heavy attacking will then put us back into Onslaught stance to continue our DPS. Calamity Counter is kind of a tech choice, and can be changed to Skyward Slash if preferred. However, I find Calamity Counter to be incredibly useful. Sometimes during a fight, when heavy attacking, you will notice an enemy about to attack you, but are unable to dodge as you are locked into the heavy attack animation. Calamity Counter gets around this, as you can activate at any point, even during the attack animation, to block the attack. This can be a lifesaver. It can also be very useful if you pull aggro from your tank during a fight, which I found does happen sometimes when using this build in pugs. The main idea of the build is to use a spear for the abilities only to apply debuffs and damage, then switch to the Greatsword to heavy attack and apply that poison. Let's now take a look at some of the pros and the cons of the build. Starting off with the pros. Very high damage output. This build puts out a very high damage output, hitting frequently for over 10k, whilst providing multiple damage over time effects through poison and bleed. Doesn't use Serenity. Serenity is the best Greatsword in the game, however can be hard to get, as in order to get it, it has to randomly appear on the PvP track. This build is great for someone who wants to use a high damage Greatsword build, but doesn't want to farm the PvP track for Serenity. Now let's take a look at some of the cons of the build. Enfeebling Skewer. This build does not use the perk Enfeebling Skewer, which is normally used on a spear for its massive weaken. You will likely want to ensure another member of your group is using a spear with Skewer. Aggro. This might just be a coincidence, but since using this build, I have often found myself putting aggro from my tank. This may just be due to some pug tanks not using Despised, or due to the very high damage output combined with the dot damage. I don't think this will be an issue with a fully optimized tank, however, something to watch out for when doing pug groups. That's it for the video. If you have any questions about the build, drop a comment below and I'll get back to you. Thanks for watching.